Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're watching this video. This is Mr. Connolly. Just going to go through the primary and secondary research question that I set you. Okay, now this is for our R081 Imedia exam that you're preparing for. Okay, so very short brief to read through this time. It was a new teenage fashion magazine called BG Style is being published in March. Okay, that's the brief, and then this was the question. So the BG Style magazine has a teenage target audience of all genders. So question A1, identify one type of primary research other than using focus groups that could be used to gather data from the target audience. Okay, so that's worth 1 mark. Next one, the use of focus groups allows questions to be asked directly to members of the target audience in interviews. Question part 2. Explain why using focus groups as part of primary research for the magazine will allow detailed information to be gathered. Okay, so that's worth 2 marks. Okay, try and state something and then expand your answer. So the next part of the question, so part B, secondary research is another form of collecting information to help produce the new magazine. Identify one method of secondary research and explain how it can be used in the production of the magazine. Okay, so it's worth 3 marks. Okay, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to state one method of secondary research and then add 2 expansion points to your answer. Okay, so pause the video if you've not yet had a go at the exam question, and then once you've finished, I'll go through the mark scheme with you. Okay, so I've lost my mark scheme. So, question 2A1. Okay, it says here, do not accept focus groups as it is in the question. Okay, we mentioned focus groups already. You must take first response to the question, accept use a survey with a focus group. Do not accept provide a focus group with a survey. Okay, so 1 mark from the following. They could say survey, 1 mark, or questionnaire, 1 mark. Okay, and then question A.2. Okay, so this time it's worth 2 marks. This question is not about the method, but about how it can be used and the ability to elicit detailed responses. So 2 marks for a point and suitable expansion. So for example, you could have target audience can give detailed expanded views, 1 mark, which can help the magazine designers more, 1 mark. Follow-up questions, 1 mark, can be asked if the answers need to be clarified, 1 mark. You can show the focus group, 1 mark, visualization diagrams and get instant feedback on how they feel, 1 mark. Okay, so now we're going to move on to question 2, part B. Okay, so it says here, allow mix and match answers. Internet or Google it on its own is too vague. This is a context-based paper. Or 2 marks if not in context. So for example, use the internet, 1 mark, to look at styles to use, 1 mark. Okay, so 3 marks for suitable method and expansion. So they could have, for example, looking at existing magazines, 1 mark. So their content can be looked at, 1 mark. To decide what to include in BG Style, 1 mark. Okay, or they could have fashion books, 1 mark. Could be looked at to see how they show clothes, 1 mark. To help decide how to lay out the clothes images, 1 mark. You could have look at fashion sites on the internet, 1 mark. To gather style ideas, 1 mark. That could be applied to the magazine's layout and look, 1 mark. Or you could have other people's questionnaires, 1 mark. To use their data and findings, 1 mark. To aid the magazine construction, 1 mark. Or you could have social media, 1 mark. To see what is trending with target audience, 1 mark. To help decide on the content for the magazine, 1 mark. Okay, now if you struggled with the research section, I would suggest you watch the GCSE pod again. If you want to go into this topic in more detail, you can watch the online lesson. Okay, see you next time. Goodbye.